Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a review of something that I've never really gotten a chance to look at much, and that is a tiny little inexpensive projector. This is the Crenova XPE 498 projector. Let's take a look at this thing and see if it's worth your money. Now, before we get much into this video, you need to recalibrate just what you're thinking about this projector based on the fact that it is retailing right now on Amazon for $90, and I'll go ahead and link that down below in case you're interested in something like this. So with a $90 projector, we're not looking at something that's gonna be ultra bright, we're not looking at something that's even gonna be super color accurate, and we're not looking at a premium projector product here. We're looking at something that's feeling a little bit more of a niche product where it is very light, very small, so it's easy to take with you. It does have a lot of input on it. Actually is one of the major strong suits of this particular projector. We have HDMI over here. We have AV cables that convert this 3.5mm jack over to your typical component, your yellow, red, and white cables. You have a USB port here, and that's really nice for the best use case that I found for this thing, and I'll get to that in a minute. On the back, we actually even have VGA, and then of course we do have SD card on the back as well. So from an input perspective, this thing actually does really well. Another quality of life thing that we do have available to us is this keystone toggle that does very quickly allow us to compensate for different angles that you may be projecting to, which I was able to use that successfully. It works very well. I would have loved to have seen it maybe have a little bit more range, but it does work for what it's for, and that's about all I can ask from it. Now, the last quality of life thing that I want to make mention of that this projector gets right, where so many for no apparent reason get this wrong, is on the bottom side. You have this sort of little screw here that allows you to raise the projector's angle up, and fortunately for us at least, this thing actually does a good job of finding the center mass of the projector, so it's not sort of wobbly even though it's only on one leg in the front. Works just like it should. Now, the first thing that you're gonna notice when you actually turn this projector on, and even though it came with a remote, I didn't really use that a whole lot. The remote works just fine. It works exactly as you would expect it to, but I was basically just using these buttons since it was just as easy for me with where I had this thing mounted. But if you turn this thing on and you don't have anything already ready to play, the first thing you're gonna notice is the fan noise. It is not completely silent projector by any means. I wouldn't even call it a quiet projector, though I did notice, and it was my biggest concern, but I did notice that once I started actually playing a video, in my case I was watching The Office on Netflix, it was in the background. You know, it was the type of hum that you can very quickly forget about. So unless you're somebody that just gets really annoyed with projector noise, then this is gonna be just fine for video. Now, if you're doing presentations in a quiet room, that's kind of up to you. I still think it'll sort of go off into the background and you won't really notice the hum much, but it's definitely there. Now let's talk about the inclusion of speakers on the side of this projector. This is something I've seen with other projectors that I've worked with actually in my day job, where we actually start to see projectors having speakers where back in the past you used to have your own speaker set for the projectors. These speakers are actually pretty solid. Now, they don't get all that loud, but they do get plenty loud enough to make the sound of the projector's fan just sort of go off into the background. You're not going to blow out any windows with the sound or anything, but the sound is actually pretty solid in that it's not overly tinny, it's not overly bassy. It actually sounds pretty good even at max volume. So even though it doesn't get overly loud, I feel like it gets loud enough for most rooms, at least most smaller rooms, and it is a good stand-in for just adding your own speakers. So I actually don't have any problem at all with these speakers. And for the use case that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute, I actually think this makes a lot of sense to just use the onboard speakers and not really worry about adding speakers to the system. Now I want to come back to the use case that I found to be, in my mind, the best way to use this projector, at least if you are into video, and that is with something like a Chromecast or some other sort of TV stick. And that's because you can plug the HDMI in and use the USB port as your power for your, in my case, Chromecast, and just use it as a Netflix machine. And what I would recommend is putting this in a dark room, because the biggest downside of this projector, beyond its colors not being all that great on color accuracy, is the fact that it's just not all that bright. And if you're in a well-lit room during the day, you're not going to be able to get a usable image. If you're in a dimmed room, or better yet, a completely dark room, this thing gets bright enough to give you a satisfactory image. Now, being a $90 projector, I think this is a great projector to get maybe the kids started off with their own little movie room. Maybe they have a playroom with a blank white wall on it that you could just hang this from the ceiling, or set it up somewhere in the middle of the room on some sort of cart and project on the wall, which is what I did when I was projecting, and I found that to be a great use case. So again, this projector, and this is sort of where we work into the conclusion of this thing, this projector is not something I would recommend for your own home theater setup, because if you're going to invest money into building out a nice theater setup, a nice home theater setup with nice seating, nice speaker system, all that, you're going to want a better video projector than this thing. However, if you're just trying to get the kids set up with something really cool that they can have for their friends when they come over, this is a great starter projector, because again, it's only $90, and in my mind, it gets you at least 3/4 of the way to a really good experience, especially again with those speakers. It doesn't get overly loud, but it does get loud enough. The colors aren't perfectly accurate, but they're accurate enough for just watching shows, watching movies, unless you're just completely a videophile. It's a decent little projector, and it's $90, and you can't overlook this projector at that price. Again, it's all about recalibrating what you're actually expecting from your money. Now, I have by no means investigated and looked into all the other $90-ish projectors on Amazon, so I can only speak to this thing, but it is a projector I'd recommend if you're looking for a cheap video solution. But of course, I do want to hear from you guys. Do you know of other cheap projectors out there that do a pretty good job? If you do, let us know in those comments down below. If you like this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, comment. All those things are helpful to the channel. You can follow me on both Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.